Manchester United 4, Bournemouth 4. Proper chaotic Premier League action. I mean, how do you even begin to try and break down what actually happened in this match? So I guess the best place to start is probably this shape, because this was a big talking point all day leading up to the match. Were Manchester United finally going to play in a back four? Yes, we did, and no, we didn't. It was quite a confusing approach from Ruben Amorim. Not in a bad way, it was just difficult to try and figure out exactly what was going on. If you listen to the Bournemouth manager post-game, he says that United were in the same shape, and to an extent that was true. The 3-4-3 in the starting 11 was quite obvious, and of course Dalot and Amad are the wing-backs who can attack further forward, and we can see in a situation like this, United are very much in their 3-4-3. However, there were also moments where it was different. There were situations where Yoro would shift across, Heaven, Shaw, and Dalot would play deeper, and suddenly Manchester United were building possession in a back four, and also defending in a back four as well. And this is why we always say the starting formation isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is the roles of the players, the fluidity that they're allowed to play with. And that was the big positive in this game. The United shape was ever changing. Players were allowed to move into different positions, and that's why United was so dangerous. So in terms of how United actually went about attacking, well, I think we were somewhat helped by the way that Bournemouth approached the game. We said in our preview for this match that United are better against teams that try and press, that try and jump, that try and put pressure on the ball, and that sometimes leaves a little bit space in behind, and I think United did an excellent job of exploiting that. Bournemouth very often were trying to jump and squeeze man-to-man where possible. There were certainly situations where they were trying to join up with the United back three, they were trying to pick us up in midfield and put us under this sort of pressure. And United really exploited this really well in a couple of different ways. Now, one of the ways that we exploited this was with individual quality. If the opposition are playing man-to-man, ignore who's on who just for a second here, but just picture literally man-to-man all over the pitch. If the opposition is pressing like this, if you can win your man versus man battle, for example, Heaven can beat his man here, Bournemouth are now one player down, and suddenly they're all trying to make up ground. So that's one thing that United did very well. Aidan Heaven was fantastic on the ball in the middle of defence, regularly turning out from the back, beating his man, allowing United to progress the ball forward. We also had Amad down the right-hand side, up against Truffer. It was a mismatch. I think Truffer is a good defender, but Amad absolutely destroyed him. Amad's dribbling was fantastic in this game. Again, if you win that man versus man battle, you've got a great chance of succeeding. We also had Cunha, who I think was excellent in this game. One of his best performances in a United shirt so far. And again, able to win his man versus man battle, escape his player, which then means that he's got more space to play and to create chances. And even Diogo Dalot on the left-hand side. It's him beating his man here before putting the ball into the box that creates the United goal. Now, the other thing that you have to do when you face these sorts of defensive teams is run and move and rotate, and I think United again did a very good job of that. What we often saw was a continuation of the back three for United in possession initially. We will come back to it, don't worry. And then Casemiro in midfield would often go and play as a solo pivot. Now, Bruno Fernandes, we know, is a box-to-box midfielder in this system, so sometimes he'll drop in deeper, but in this game we saw more of him playing that little bit higher, closer to Cunha, closer to Mount, and also closer to Mbeumo. I thought Mbeumo in particular played a slightly more tucked position in this game, and you can see that we then sort of get this one is the solo in midfield with the three then advanced ahead of him. And the reason why this can be so effective is because if we just quickly mark these four United players here, the quality there, the technical quality is an absolute joke. If you get good technical players near each other, they always have the capacity to hurt any football team in the world. But what's important was that they didn't just stay in their position. Cunha didn't just play as a striker. They were incredibly free with their movement. You know, there were moments where Mbeumo was popping up on the left wing, or Mount would make a run from the left to the right, opening up space for someone else. This is why United was so dangerous on the board in this game, because there was a freedom, there was an intensity, but also a sharpness, and I think that's very important, because sometimes we see that United do set up tactically quite well, but the players just fail their passes and aren't sharp and start the game a little bit slow. Not the case in this game. United were intense from minute one, we were sharp from minute one. The details with the passing were largely good. Quite frankly, United should have scored a lot of goals, and this should have been over by half-time. I think Amorim set us up on the ball really well to go and attack Bournemouth. We should have put the game to bed before half-time. However, there is one problem with the way that we're playing, and it's that it's a little bit emotion-based, right? You sort of try and play in the momentum of this game, which we really saw in this match. And sometimes that makes it a little bit difficult to control the second you lose the ball. If we take a look at United off the ball, this is probably where the back four was the most evident for the first hour of the game. Because United, on Bournemouth goal kicks, were set up in a 4-4-2 diamond. We can see that here. Casemiro is playing as the solo pivot. We then got Mount and Ahmad as two central midfielders, and then Bruno Fernandes a little bit higher in the 10. And again, for the first half hour, when the momentum was on the side of United, when Bournemouth looked a little bit rattled, United were fantastic in this pressing structure on goal kicks. Bournemouth could not play out from the back. They couldn't find a way through. There were so many situations where United were overturning possession high, winning the ball back, and the great thing about this new system, we've used it before. The great thing about the system is when we win the ball back, let's say with Mason Mount in midfield, because Mbeumo is pressing as a striker rather than a winger, he is so much higher to then transition. So when we win the ball back in this position here, Mbeumo is central and high, and he's probably one of our best finishers at the club. Granted, not in this game, but you can see the idea behind it. If we win the ball back, we've immediately got Cunha and Mbeumo very close to the opposition's goal. The other benefit is Ahmad now is not playing as a wing back. Ahmad is playing much higher. So normally he plays a little bit deeper over here in the back five. When United win the ball back, Ahmad is miles away from the transition. Whereas if he plays on the side of the diamond, when we win the ball back, he can be that little bit more direct. He can get closer to the forwards. And again, it's these players playing in close proximity, which allows United to be so dangerous. Okay, so now time for some drawbacks, because whilst it was all fun and an entertaining game, United did concede 4 goals at home, and we dropped points once again at Old Trafford, which is becoming a bit of a theme right now. And I think the problem with the defensive approach that we showed was, sure, in the high press on goal kicks, I think it looks great. United knew their roles well. In open play, like we've seen before, things start to fall apart a little bit. We become a bit too stretched horizontally, vertically, every direction we become a little bit stretched. And again, because we're playing such an intense style on the ball, and then trying to play so intense off the ball as well, you're going to get tired. Like, you can't keep up that intensity for 90 minutes without a moment of pause. The team needs that moment where it rests, where it slows down on the ball, or even off the ball, it slows down and gets into its block. But United weren't really doing that. The whole game was quite chaotic, which when you're on top is great, but allows you to lose a little bit of control. The other thing we've got here, if we just look across the back four, is, sure, a back four is nice to see. It allows us to play with one a little bit higher. But the positioning of the back four and the profiles is quite frankly confusing. It doesn't make a lot of sense. We've got a right back playing left back. We've got a left back playing left centre back. We've got a left centre back playing right centre back. And we've got a centre back playing right back. It doesn't really work. It doesn't make too much sense at all. None of them really are in their best position. Dallow's probably the closest to his best position because he's a good fullback either side. But these three certainly are not playing in their best role. And I think you could see that. And with United being chaotic in their approach, and with the gaps really opening up, and the flow of the game being, really flowing, end-to-end football constantly, the gaps just opened up, and there was a problem for Manchester United, particularly down this side. If Bournemouth were willing to get runners past, Heaven and Yoro did not look comfortable with their position at all. Now, of course, we've got to excuse them a little bit. They're both very, very young defenders, who you wouldn't normally start together in a back line if you could help it. You would want more experience. They're also both playing out of position is the problem, and they just struggled all night, to be honest. They didn't play very well from a defensive point of view. And then, if we look at the 4 goals that United conceded, they are all really frustrating because, to me, they all feel a little bit like goals that we have seen under Ruben Amorim before, whether that's tactical things that we're getting wrong or individual errors. So the first goal is Manchester United losing the man-to-man duel on the left-hand side. Shaw loses out in the battle when he should clear it. Mount didn't give him a nice pass, but United lose that man-to-man, and then we see a defensive error from Aiden Heaven. He doesn't get across. Then we've got the second goal. It comes because Manchester United cannot move the ball out from the back. The first phase at the goal kick, we can't find a way to play through, which is something that we've seen before. We forced to play the ball long, we overturn possession, and then Bournemouth score. The third goal, Lomans should just do better. He will absolutely know that. He doesn't get his technique right at all with his arms, with his footwork. It's just a poor one. And then the fourth goal, space on the far side of the pitch for the opposition to attack. We've seen that before. And then, again, it's really bad from the centre-backs. It's bad individual defending. So defensively, I think there is something on Amorim there. Because, like I said, for example, these are things that we've seen before. But also, just a lot of individual mistakes, which you wouldn't normally expect sort of this volume of. So many errors. Now, finally, the last thing that I want to talk about is the way that United ended the game, the last 20 minutes. Because This is the point where, for me, there is no debate over the shape. Manchester United were in a back four. Diogo Dalot made the move to the right-hand side. Shaw played left-back initially before being replaced by Patrick Dorgu. Alessandro Martinez and Heaven were playing as centre-backs. There is no doubt, no questioning, this is now a back four. We then saw Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo in midfield as a double pivot. And then we saw a front four. Now, the front four, again, was very free moving. Sometimes Mbeumo would drop in behind Sesko, and it looks more like a 4-2-3-1. In other moments, Cunha would come narrow to join the attack, and Dorgu would overlap, for example, and the shape changes. But certainly, as a starting point, it becomes a back four. And this looked more balanced, I felt, because, first of all, Dorgu is on his side in his best position, a fullback at fullback. Dalot is in his best position. Alessandro Martinez is in his best position. Heaven is the only one, arguably, playing a slightly different role to what he would like, but that's certainly better than what we had earlier. Then in midfield, we've got a really nice combination for on-the-ball play, because you've got Bruno Fernandes' creativity, his ability to play forward, his passing range, absolutely fantastic again last night. Alongside him, Kobbie Mainoo. Now, I think there's a chance Kobbie Mainoo's performance may have gone under the radar a little bit, but I think technically he brought a lot to the team with the delay that he would put on the ball. And because he was utilised as United's deepest midfielder, it meant that he didn't have to be box to box, so the physical problems that he's got were sort of removed because he was playing in his best position. He was able to get on the ball and control the tempo in two ways. First of all, by slowing it down, and then by speeding it up. And that was the injection that United needed. The ability to manipulate Bournemouth even further. Again, if we're talking about Bournemouth playing man-to-man, Kobbie's perfect for that, because the way that he manipulates people is brilliant. So I think he had a good cameo. And then we've got the front four. We've now got two very good ball strikers, very good goal scorers in the middle with Sesko and Mbeumo. We've got incredible wide threat with Ahmad and his 1-versus-1 ability, now playing higher than ever from what we've seen this season. And then Cunha on the left, who, like I said, always carried a threat in this game, but could also come inside a little bit closer as Dorgu went round. Now, the last 20 minutes was almost so chaotic that it's difficult to take too much from it tactically immediately. I've actually watched the match back I've watched it 3 times total now, and I still need to watch it again, I think, especially that last 20, to see what United were doing with the 4-2-4 shape. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Now, I think that is everything that I wanted to cover today, sort of all crammed into one video. There will be lots of talking points during the week, sort of going back through the game and breaking down what we saw, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see those videos. I think overall, United were the better team. I think United deserved to win. We should have scored more goals in the first half. We should have killed the game. Honestly, if it was 3-0 at half-time, I don't think anyone could have really complained. We were the far better team. The start of the second half, we don't get going. We didn't start the half anywhere near quick enough, and we make errors leading to goals, and suddenly it's an uphill task. I think the players deserve a lot of credit for the way that they reacted. We've seen United capitulate before and heads go down and we go under, but we didn't see that in this game. There was that fight back, and it always felt like United was still in the game, and that's because we carried such a massive attacking threat on the ball. All in all, an incredibly entertaining football match, and an intriguing one, which is what I want to see from United. Something a little bit different, something which we have to try and figure out. Players playing different roles, playing more freely, and we saw all of that. Defensively, there is so much work to do. So much work to do. We have to find a way to continue this attacking threat, because we've scored 8 goals in 2 games now, but make sure that we're not conceding as much, because we've conceded 5 in 2 against 2 sides who were struggling to score before playing us. So, a lot to work on. In terms of what we need to work on, we will focus on that another day, because this video is getting a little bit too long. I think I've just about covered everything that I want to cover today, so we're going to wrap it up there. If I have missed anything, I do apologise. Let me know in the comments. It was a chaotic game. It's a difficult one to understand, but hopefully you've got a slightly better understanding now. Did United change formation? Sort of. It was certainly a more fluid shape. I enjoyed watching it, but we are going to wrap the video up there because you can probably hear a doggo barking in the background. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and get your notifications on. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.